Hey, what's up, Zach here. And I really think this video will change your mind about the Jordan 2. At least it did mine when I was making it. What I find interesting is that Michael Jordan himself was the one kind of sandbagging the shoe in the first place, which I will get to a bit later why he was doing that. But the design and the tech behind the Jordan 2 for its time and even now is pretty darn solid. Let's tear apart the Jordan 2 and check out what's underneath the hood of one of the most underappreciated Jordans of all time. Now, starting from the south end of the shoe, if you look at the outsole tread, at first glance it actually looks pretty pedestrian, maybe a little too smooth for grip. However, the Jordan 2 as well as the Jordan 3 works kind of like a snowplow versus some other deeper groove treads we see now that work more like a snowcat. And what I mean by that is because the tread is a heavier rubber and the design is more chunky, kind of a flat design with that big scoop of midsole foam in the middle, the shoe works to almost push or plow the surfaces on top of, really sweeping away any debris or dust or resin with its leading edge and then engaging with the surface on its trailing edge. And this is in contrast to more modern treads like herringbone and more regenerative patterns that have narrow treads and wide spacing, which more dig into the surface like caterpillar tracks on a snowy or muddy terrain. And both these designs have their benefits and limitations, but when going side to side, the racing skid pattern of the Jordan 2s can really give some stable, balanced grip. Even if you look at the suicide test, 14.84 seconds, which is kind of right in the mix with some other brand new shoes, just because these grab the surface with some real confidence. So even though these don't have the explosive midsole of some newer shoes, they can still give you some great side-to-side cornering speed, whether on hardwood or asphalt, or even on some really dusty, dirty courts. You can see here the one turn I took right over some dirty leaves, some dried leaves, still grip just fine. And because the treads are built a little beefier, their hardness or durometer is a little higher than shoes that would have been made side by side with this shoe back when it came out. However, its durability to abrasion isn't as good as some other shoes, especially today with newer rubbers. If you look at the durability test for the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, about 2 millimeters of damage on a 3 millimeter tread depth. The saving grace that is because the treads are so flat, you're going to share all of that shear and all of that pressure. So the treads are going to last a little bit longer just because there's so much more surface area that can get contacted on the ground. However, unlike newer shoes, you're not going to get that really beefy durability like you do with some more XDR rubbers these days. Now, getting into the midsole teardown, these do have an earlier rendition of Nike Air with the Nike Air sole. Now, the midsole by today's standards is really nothing to write home about, but for their time, these didn't get nearly enough credit for launching the Nike Air integrations into the Jordan line of shoes and moving that brand away from the rubber cup, mid, and outsole combinations to the rubber and foam or the rubber, foam, and air setups that we see now. And because these are stiffer mid and outsoled shoes, a lot like the Jordan 1, they do give a similar diving board effect when jumping. As you can see on the jump height test, 33.3 centimeter average. And remember, on my jump test, I'm serving a tennis ball to really isolate the lower leg and foot, and that stiffer construction does come in handy when trying to get some springboard effect from the shoe. Just remember the downside to that is when landing, the shock absorption isn't nearly as good as with newer foams. And remember, these don't have a stiff shank in the midsole. All the stiffness comes from the rubber and the foam setup. So remember, with repeated cantilever bending of these shoes, they're going to be more prone to cracking and disintegration over time versus newer models. Now, the uppers of the Jordan 2 were the most interesting part of the shoe to me. Number one, because the original iteration of this shoe was supposed to be able to be matched with a tuxedo or formal wear. Number two, because the iguana print leather on them, again, more of a premium modification. And number three, most importantly, and also probably most overlooked, are these elastic straps that go from the tongue into the strobel board. And of course, this is done a lot nowadays, but the 2s were one of the first hoop shoes to use this design, which number one, keeps the tongue in place, but number two, gives some compression on the foot. And with that design on the inside of the uppers combined with that external or outrigger heel counter here, you just give the foot a lot better of a lockdown in the shoe, a lot more side-to-side stability, just a lot more confidence when moving a little bit more aggressively on court. Something these really didn't get a lot of credit for. I mean, the upper design especially was just a quantum leap ahead of the Jordan 1s, and in reality, these just really were kind of overlooked for that. And just in general, I found the uppers to be really comfortable, nice and padded all the way around the ankle collar and heel counter, and to me, they almost felt like they had cast padding in them, which made it feel like a real molded fit in the upper, especially in the rear foot, which I really liked a lot. And with the more premium materials, it usually comes more decent durability too in the uppers. So if you look at the upper durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, the Dremel really did not bite through that upper layer of these at all. So even though these aren't the more multi-layer mesh of some newer shoes with the new compounds, these still have some pretty darn good durability just because the build quality is better. Now the fit of the Jordan 2, at least to me, was completely different than meets the eye. They are more boxy in the midfoot than they look just from outside. And even with the retros, they're made with just materials that just give a little bit more with wear. I know it's cliche to say, but when Nike went to make a luxury basketball shoe with these, you know, they actually made it to where the shoe's materials just felt better with each wear. The shoe became a little bit more customized to your foot with each wear. The shoe kind of molded around your foot versus just a standard break-in. So when you do make a shoe with more premium materials, you kind of get more of a quote-unquote premium break-in as well. But if you are buying these, I just wouldn't expect them to help out with anything shock-inducing injury-wise. However, they do accept an orthotic well, so they can be modified for that easy enough. And in terms of playability, you know, if you listen to Michael Jordan himself, you would have thought these were bricks. However, I also think that at the time, Michael Jordan may have still been dubious of Nike and wondering maybe if the Jordan line was just a one-shoe wonder after the Jordan 1, and then when the Jordan 2 didn't make the huge splash the Jordan 1 did among the general public, that could have been where the overall aggravation came with from him, even though he did have a foot injury prior to wearing these and spent the rest of that season in the 2s and put up record numbers with the foot still rehabbing, which would suggest the shoes were actually pretty darn good. They may have just been caught up in some other issues that were going on at the time as well. And to be fair, the Jordan 2s don't have that real nimble footwork available to you that a lot of other modern day shoes do. You better bring that to the table yourself if you're going to be wearing these. They also don't have the shock absorption that most modern day shoes do, so they are going to leave you a little bit more prone to chronic repetitive injuries. However, these shoes do pivot and cut really well. They're also incredibly well balanced. They also protect the foot very well. They're really padded, and the materials just are a little bit more rugged. So these shoes definitely still do have a few little perks to them if you are going to decide to wear them for some hooping. And I think in terms of retros go, they do still hold up pretty well. And so are the Jordan 2s the GOAT Air Jordan sneaker? Well, honestly, that does come down to personal preference. And if I'm being honest, there are other Jordan sneakers out there that are a little bit more interesting to look at and have some bit more history behind them. However, the Jordan 2s definitely still deserve their place in the annals of sneaker history. But the other interesting thing is after I played in these, cut them open, made all my notes about the shoe, did all the measurements, and kind of really saw where my opinion lied on them and put the video together, I went on YouTube and just looked at some other reviews, and not to my surprise, there's a lot of very critical reviews out there. So I would love to hear your opinion, especially if you've worn these shoes or have worn a lot of the Jordan brand shoes, just to see kind of where these fall on your list of Jordan shoes. So let me know in the comments down below. And just as a heads up, I will be continuing this Jordan Teardown series with the Jordan 3 coming up soon. And if you want to see the predecessor to the Jordan 2, the Jordan 1 go under the knife, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam and iguana prints. I'll see you in the next video.